Why does every business podcast sound like a TED Talk?
Because nobody's letting founders just talk. And we both love to talk, and we love listening to other founders and their experiences. And that's why we created this podcast.
I'm Madi, Linder, CMO and co-founder of West Domain Homes, amongst a bunch of other brands that we have decided to start.
Yes, and I'm Stacie Staub. I'm the CEO of all of those brands, which you'll find out so much about along the way.
Each episode, we're bringing on a founder who's been building for the long game, and we're just going to talk. Welcome to the show. We are your best friends in business.
Your best friends in business with Stacie and Madi. The best advice you ever had, so you won't have to ask your dad. Best friends.
So again, this week has been another crazy week.
Another crazy week. It is busy season for real estate. We have close to 400 agents in Colorado and 9 offices. So in our West Domain Slack, we have a channel called Working Hard for the Money. And this really stuck with me. One of our agents posted in there. It's where agents can post, they need showing help, or it can be anything. They need help. And this is a top producing agent. And she put in there, can someone please, I think it was like $100 or whatever, please go show this house to my clients. I know they're already going to hate it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I appreciate the honesty and the fact that she was like, I don't have time for that.
Well, and I love, this is the genuineness and the generosity of realtors.
Yes.
They're not going to tell their client they can't see the house. But also, she was like, I'm not driving over there.
I know they're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And they did. Spoiler alert, they hated it. So I thought that was great. It's like, delegate your time.
Yes. Such an important lesson, when you're an entrepreneur. And if you're building a business, if you're in a business, and you have to start accepting, you can't be everyone everywhere all the time. And so what can you outsource? And we try to encourage them to do that actually a lot. Realtors especially have a hard time doing that, but I think all entrepreneurs do. Also, when you're bootstrapping and you're scraping it together, it's really hard to delegate and accept that you have to pay someone.
And you get that help.
Funny, you were having a conversation with another founder the other day and telling her that we don't have an assistant.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. If anyone's interested,
we have such a wonderful team. We have awesome staff in all of our companies, but we've never been able to find an assistant situation that's stuck. And I think it's just we have a really hard time.
We have a hard time delegating.
Not doing all the work.
Yeah.
Which is...
And some things I like doing.
Yeah. But that founder who we're going to have on this podcast was saying that she doesn't like having an assistant either.
Nope, she hates having an assistant.
That was really
gratifying.
gratifying.
She's a boss lady. And I was like, oh, we're the same.
Totally. Well, Molly, have you ever had an assistant?
I have never had an assistant.
Yes. This is proving our point.
I have never.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Today's guest is Molly McKinley, founder of Redtail Creative, entrepreneur in residence at Meredith College, and author of The Intentional Business. Her work sits at the intersection of strategic marketing, PR, and what she calls AI authority strategy, helping purpose-driven businesses become visible in a world where the systems deciding who gets recommended don't actually reward the most deserving.
So can you just explain a little bit of your journey?
Yeah. I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur. It started when I was the kid who had the lemonade stand, always hustling, right? Yep. So I have worked pretty much my whole life. But the last 10, 15 years, I've been running a marketing consultancy. And that has shifted. We hired up, we had people, and then now I'm back to solo. And frankly, I love it. I love being on my own. There's a lot of freedom there. So.
Yes.
No, and I know that Molly and I have known each other for so many years, and having been kind of on that journey with you, it's really cool to watch you come back to this space, even though I know that it was it was a roller coaster, right? And it was super high highs and a lot of low lows.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because with marketing, it's one of those things that it's not necessarily what I'm passionate about, but it's what always paid the bills. And so I would launch a business and we'd hit a wall. A Crafty Girls keepsake kit was my first business out of the box, right?
That's catchy.
Oh, that's so cute.
They were, this was 20 years or 25 years ago, actually, where like kitting wasn't a thing like for craft kits. So, was making these craft kits. And then I was on Oprah's Next $1 Million Idea show, like out of the gate, so had a lot of really early experiences and like successes as an entrepreneur. And then we'd always just hit this wall. I mean, that was 25 years ago where you had to have like 2,000 boxes printed. Everything was hard, right? There was no like minimum run. I mean, minimum runs were in the thousands, and the only way that I could get my cogs to work is if I, made something in China, shipped it to India, had it here. It was just a crazy world. And all of that has just totally changed. So what's interesting is, but while I was doing those sort of like passion projects, if you will, I was always getting paid doing the marketing. And I finally just came to this conclusion where I was like, what am I doing? Why isn't my business the marketing business? Because that's what people obviously want to pay me for. But it really wasn't my, where I thought I would end up.
Well, and you did sales for a while too, right? With AdWorks, and like you really had like a moment in there.
I wouldn't say I was technically supposed to be doing sales. So that's, again, I was like number 9 there, right? So when you're in the early stage startup world, it's like, you got to do what you got to do to get it born. And so my role technically was building the brand. And the way that I knew how to build the brand was through people and through third-party validation. So it put me on the road a lot. And through those conversations, connections, the sales happened. But that wasn't because I was the salesperson. But the sharpened skill set, right? That experience got me to that place where I'm not afraid to ask for the sale, right? Especially if I believe in it. And I do believe that that's why I fell in love with the real estate industry, because it is so relationship driven, that the sales is just a part of working together, not necessarily, and that framing to me was very aligned with my heart, because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to work together. What's that going to look like? And then you shape it through the sales process. But it's not like a sales process, but so technically no, but yes.
I think, on a previous episode, we had on Meg, who was the founder of The Bear and the Rat. And like, I think she said a similar thing. Like, she said she didn't like being the face and didn't want to do the sales. But I think when you're an entrepreneur, like you end up doing that because you have to be, whether you're selling direct to the consumer at a farmer's market, or you're trying to get your product placed, or you're looking for funding, like you're constantly having to sell something and sell your thing, in fact.
Yeah.
And I think like for so many, especially independent salespeople, it takes a while to get that. Like a lot of realtors, in fact, will say like, oh, but I'm not in sales. It's like, oh, sister.
Oh, it's so sales.
You're selling houses.
It's like a dirty word,
like,
right?
Just
It's like
own
it's not
it.
sales.
Yeah.
But it's sales.
Yeah.
But if you do it the right way, it doesn't feel gross.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, if you genuinely care and you're genuinely trying to do right and find value, then it's not dirty, right?
Yeah.
But we still associate that the close or whatever, like I win, you lose. And I think that just needs to go. Like for me, I don't ever want to sign a contract unless it's a win-win. Everybody's winning and we're all feeling great about it. And if we can't get to that place in a contract, then it's not meant to be. And I'm very fine with just letting that type of business go. But, at that time though, when that was happening, when I had to be on a lot of stages, it was because there weren't a lot of women in tech. And they were desperate to have somebody who would be willing to, represent, if you will. And so sort of forced into that role, but not intentionally. So.
Yeah, and that certainly wasn't the job description, but sometimes that job just evolves. And I think same for founders too. Like your job as a founder has to evolve. And I know that you've been through that with Redtail too. Like, tell us about, like, for one, how you decided to take that leap and do your own thing again. And then, like, I'll ask you 2 questions. I'm just going to tee it up for you because I know then you'll just talk. So, like, what would you do again for sure? Like, what do you what made it happen? And then what do you regret?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Well, with Redtail for me, it was the thing that people wanted to pay me for. It was the thing that just kept hitting me over and over again. I was trying to build a product, and I had a Happykins company too, a cloth napkin company. I wanted to make the craft stuff. That's what I wanted to do. But everyone was asking me to do marketing, right? So it was really that. It was the universe just putting me on that path. Now, candidly and vulnerably, the things that I would do really different is I was not clear with my early collaborators, our roles. And so we are actually ruined the relationship, and now that I teach entrepreneurship, it's very, very clear how that broke down. But we weren't, we were creative partners, but we weren't business partners. And that is a distinction. Like there wasn't shared money going in. There wasn't there wasn't that equal coming, building together. And that wasn't on paper. And so that I do regret, because I love those people and it cost our relationship. And I had a few of those, right, where where like the school of hard knocks, where we just weren't communicating well. And for me, when you're in business with someone, you have to treat it like a marriage, a relationship, right? And
you got to have prenup, right?
We do.
Prenup.
We want prenup.
She's my work wife.
I know. It is real. And so for me, like with my students, like I will say, contracts are kind.
Yes.
Clarity is kindness.
Yes.
And if you get all of that worked out in paper, in writing, then there really should be no miscommunication, right? Because now you both are walking in eyes wide open. So it's funny, like as my business evolved and we were really growing, I met a woman named Shelley Leslie, who she was sort of in transition, and we met, the day we met, we were like finishing each other's sentences, and we were like, okay, we're going to work together, but how? And so she ended up becoming my business partner. And we took such care in that, like, what does the breakup look like? When do we know? We know if it's working? Like, what are you putting in? What am I putting in? And it was this really dynamic conversation. And so she really taught me what that looks like. And I had never experienced that before. But because she is like an excellent communicator, she really like raised the bar. Now, we didn't stay in business together for very long. It was only 2 years. She was having some, her heart was with her grandchildren, and she was just ready to not have the hustle.
Totally.
And she also realized too that she had the heart of an entrepreneur, but hated the risk of the 3 a.m. night sweats of how am I going to make payroll? Like she did not have the stomach for that kind of thing. And so it was just not a great match. But we were candid and we were honest about it. And we had already worked out what our breakup looks like before we had even signed the contract. And so it was easy. And that really showed me what it's supposed to be to protect the integrity. We both left. I love her. We're both close. So it was just, but I made a lot of those mistakes. And unfortunately, when money is involved, I do think that people sort of assume the worst, and, it kind of, it shifts people. And now I'm just not willing to, to make those mistakes again.
No, I think that's so many good points in there. But I would say, if someone who's listening is thinking about getting into a partnership, like how can they put together that agreement? And like, can it be as simple as like an email where you just exchange those, concepts and ideas and like make it concrete? Maybe like it's even like I know we're not supposed to say rocket lawyer, but like like I think just anything is better than nothing, right? And like maybe you can't afford a lawyer in the beginning to throw that together for you, but like there should be something. But I think the most important thing is the transparency, that communication of like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah. I mean, it was like we took our conversations that we were having and we put it on writing. And it's as easy as recording your conversation and then popping photoshopping a transcript so that you actually then have a working
Totally.
document.
That's great.
And then we both signed it, you know, and was it binding because we didn't have a lawyer or a notary? I'm not sure, but it was binding for us. And it was one of those things that we sort of, our mantra at the time is that we'll put this in the drawer and we'll only pull it out when we need to.
Yeah.
And that really worked for us. Again, but I think that's where a lot of women in particular, which is where my heart lives, is, helping the next generation of women thrive in business, is we assume it'll work out, and it doesn't, right?
Well, you want to, and it's also a really hard conversation. Money is hard to talk about.
Yes.
It's, it's the whole reason our friend Mike wrote The Money Habit, which is all about like personal finances and how to manage those. And that came about from his own marriage where he almost broke them, and it kept his wife in the dark because he didn't want to have those hard conversations about how he was failing. And I think like the more that you just like openly communicate, which Maddie and I maybe take that to an extreme, like we communicate about
like too
everything.
much. I'm just
like we live in each other's brains. Like we can literally like we can tell people like I can speak for both of us, and we can confidently do that because we've been like business
it's rare
partners
where
for
she's
so
like,
long.
oh, I said this was okay, and I'm like, what?
No,
that
are you
doesn't really happen.
crazy?
But
No, we trust each other now, but it took a long time to get there. And
Yeah.
I think like one of the first things that I learned in business school was never have a 50-50 partnership. And so when we started, West and Main, we weren't equal. And then after a few months, it was like, well, we're working equally hard. We're just going to equalize. And people thought we were crazy still. Like there has to be a tiebreaker. There has to be a, majority shareholder.
Yeah, and
So-
all our other ventures were 50-50.
Yeah.
People are always looking over the paperwork and they're like,
Are you sure?
you guys don't, like, do you know? Are you idiots? Like, what are you doing?
If we get divorced, that's going to be like really bad. Yeah, if we ever broke up. But I love that you're like standing in your own now and like really like owning that.
Yeah, and it's been a challenge. Like, honestly, I would love to have a Madi, and I mean, frankly, like that would be amazing. I just haven't had that person who's in it equally,
Yeah.
right? And so, my business is shifting so much with AI. It's really changed the world that I work in specifically. There's a lot of freedom and I don't think I could do what I'm doing at Meredith if I had to answer to someone else other than my clients, so it is, I like being captain of my ship,
Best friends.
So we're back, and we were just talking with Molly McKinley about AI, and you have a really strong point of view about AI and visibility, which is, of course, like the clickbait word right now and like what everyone's talking about. And like personally, I think we really struggle to like navigate how we're using AI in all of our businesses, especially me as a writer, like at heart, like I'm having a really tough time just enveloping it and making it work for me instead of against us. And so can you actually build genuine authority, or is it just a new game with new rules that still favor whoever has more resources? And I know you're going to love this question.
I do actually love this question. Yeah. Well, again, kind of going back to my history, right? So like, it's started in PR. Public relations is all about earned media, third-party validation, and you had to earn it. So this was 30 years ago, right? Where I had relationships with journalists, we'd pitch and, and when you would get the Ellen hit or the Today Show or whatever it was really rewarding, right? Because some other group of producers thought what we were pitching was worthwhile, right? That was interesting. And then helped launch Rate My Agent in the US, which was a reviews platform for real estate technology. So reviews, again, third-party validation, and, did a lot of work with content, did a sabbatical with SEO, right? So my expertise actually lies in all of the things that AI actually values. So for me, I think yes. The answer is it's earned, however. And the way I like to think about it is it's almost like we're having kind of an old school 25 years ago moment where you can't fake it. So like for me with marketing the last, 10, 15 years, I've always had this sort of like, this, like the hacking, that whole thing felt so cheap to me, or like all of like the black hat things, or if you can just stuff the keywords or do this or that, none of it felt true. Mm-hmm. And as a yogi, right, it's like that truth meter for me matters, and I want to have integrity. So having that earning it again it matters. And AI rewards authority. So like I'm thinking now about clustering things. So if I'm going to be talking about a topic that I want to be an expert on, like what are all of the things in that cluster that have authority? So who are the people who have expertise? What are the publications that are talking about this? Where are the people like consuming this information, and making sure that I'm structuring data or content around clusters. And to me, that's actually really exciting. But I don't view it like I'm gaming AI. I don't view it like another hack like SEO. For me, it's more like earning again with the optimizations, the best practices of understanding intention of the person looking for the thing. But that's psychology, that's EQ. And it's really not a black hat thing. So I kind of love this moment that we're in. Now, the ethical side of it, right? Like what is going to happen? Are we loving it? And then we're like writing ourselves out of our business? Absolutely. I mean, we had 14 people at Redtail at one point. All of those roles are now being done by AI. And so I'm seeing it like I'm the canary in the coal mine as a small business owner, like how easily it is to displace because people are unwilling to pay for human services because they can do it cheaper with AI. So I definitely feel that. I think that's real. And so for me, where my sort of priority right now is how do we actually help create conscious humans so that we have conscious humans who are working with AI in an intentional, creative partnership kind of way instead of just sloppy garbage in, garbage out. And I think that's where we're really at. I feel like that's the conversation that we should be having is how do we really level up humans or humanity so that when we meet AI, we have this intelligence matching intelligence, if that makes some sense.
Instead of us just getting dumber.
Yeah. Instead of us getting dumber. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Like I think like how do we keep using our own brains to create things and to write and to do all of these tasks, but it's so tempting to do it in a more efficient way. What concerns me, and I'd love to ask you, like, I think within most AI platforms, there's a natural bias toward, old white men who have, traditionally like rose to the top in SEO, just like you said, because they were able to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, both an opportunity and the conundrum is, so are there platforms that you're using now? Like, what are you doing now?
Yeah, so my tech stack is pretty simple. So I use SEMrush to do my analysis and audits, just to sort of looking for gaps and opportunities and sort of assessing competition. And then I use Claude and I use Claude Codeworks. And I have developed my own sort of audits, my own process where I'm checking and creating. So where I think it's a strange moment in time is that we're still in this sort of gotcha age where it's like, this is AI. And it's like
use the M dash.
I know.
And I love the M dash before
I
this.
know.
Now I can't use it anymore because people think it's AI.
But it's crazy for me. So as a writer, right? So I think it's all about intention. So if I'm going to be writing technical, optimized content for the sake of creating a cluster, right? So part of that would be having a journalist talking about it, that we would have in the cluster. Part of it would be having some content written that's optimized for like with really rich schema that's really marked, all of the things so that all of the spiders and all of the AI can see it and read it and attribute it correctly. But so there are times for me where AI writing is absolutely okay if you know why you're doing it. But the weird thing is still this like, I gotcha, that's an AI. It's like, well, of course it is, and not trying to pass it off. So I'm writing a book right now it's called Trust and Authority, and it's about this. And I am interviewing and then taking transcripts, and I'm using AI as my editor. And when I did my first book, I didn't have an editor. It's my mom, and she was, I know. Well, in all fairness, she did edit textbooks, so she had some skills, right? Like she has a lot of skills. But it was one of those things where the process was really unprofessional, right? But now with Claude, it gives me prompts. It says, look in this deeper. We need a story here. Insert this, scratch this. And that process has been like actually refining my creativity. But I do think it's how you show up is what actually matters. If you expect it to do it, and then that's what you're getting out of it, but for me, I'm using it as a trainer in a lot of ways, as an editor, as my partner, and that is yielding different results. So it really just depends, I think.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I think like it's a conversation that's going to have to continue to stay at the forefront, even though tired of talking about it, but I think we're having better conversations about it than we were able to have even a year ago.
Yeah.
Because it has already evolved so fast, which again is the opportunity and the problem. So flipping to like, you're a professor now, and you're now teaching kids like how to be entrepreneurs. And as a side note, or hand in hand, I guess, like how are you using AI in your business? But are you seeing, I know that my kids, like my high schooler this year, she was like, I got caught using Claude on my paper. Like it would be so tempting and so hard to not use Claude on your paper. Like I get it.
Hard.
Like how are you going to sit down and write a 6-page synopsis when you can spend 60 seconds, writing a good prompt? So how are you navigating that with your students?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we do start always with how do we teach you the framework first, so that if we're doing a design thinking exercise, for example, and our students are trying to solve a problem, I want them to get up. I want them to use the Post-it notes. I want them to whiteboard it. I want them to learn the skills and the muscles to problem solve. But then I have them, so taking the work that you did, and then put it into AI and ask like, where are the gaps? What did you learn? What questions did I not ask? Where does this already exist? Who is already doing this well? Are there examples or, case studies that I should be reading that help me, like what else, did I miss? And in that way, AI is actually a supplemental learning tool, because then there's almost always an aha moment, right? Like, oh, well, actually there's a company who's doing this exact same thing in Berlin, and, it's just interesting to see how our world does open up because we have access to really everything. And even more so than the internet, right? Like it's because the way that we discover is so intuitive that it really is a lovely thing. I am a huge believer in ethical AI, and I really do want the students to know that the more you prompt, the more water you use. So like being really thoughtful about the prompt, so that you aren't asking it 6 times, but you're asking it 2, and just knowing like implications of AI. And frankly, some of my students are refusing it. They're like, no, I'm not doing it. I have a fundamental problem with AI and I have chosen not to use it. And so I always do try to respect where people are at. But the young generation, they are either like natives, like my kids, who can just run anything and build anything, limited by their imagination only. And then you have students who are like a hard pass, it's not for me. And so really trying to teach to both of those is a challenge.
I can only imagine. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I really want to finish hearing the story about intentionalities. We were on that journey with you early on.
Yes.
And after a brief conversation with you the other day, we kind of know where it's headed, but I can't wait to hear.
I love it.
Best friends.
So we're back with Molly. And Molly, you've shared so much about your journey already, but What Maddie and I are most curious about is what happened with intentionalities.
It's actually a good story. A couple years ago, I was traveling in Europe, and I got an alert that my site was basically, it was gone. And I was at this critical point of my business anyway, where the tea is, again, passion project, sort of an outlier of what was making money, which is Red Tail and my consulting services. And so I was really sort of having a moment of like, what do I do with this? And so I just put it on ice. I'm like, I'm going to pause, again, the universe is giving me a sign here, I'm going to put this on ice. Well, this year at Meredith, really trying very hard to create hands-on experiences for my students. And so we did this live case study with a founder named Linda Skills, who started a barbecue sauce called Mutt's sauce.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally no Mutts.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
for sure.
Well, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And she opened her kimono, gave us like into the cogs, into the books. We redid the branding. Like we really helped her. She's a female veteran. I mean, like, come on, this is like perfect, right? So the students, we were on this year-long journey together of relaunching Mutt sauce. And there were some challenges, right? She's in Ohio, we're in North Carolina. So we were Zooming. We didn't actually get the product because we're not sitting next, to her in the product. So there were some challenges there. And, it got me thinking. And, Meredith has this sort of culture of like Alice in Wonderland. And I've always had this daydream of a tea house with like this, super cool
Mad
vibe.
Hatter
Yes,
situation.
you totally like funky china and plants, like all of the thing. And so I sort of just jokingly said it to the students, like, hey, I should give you my tea house so we can run the tea house next year. And they were like, yes, and please. And so we just started talking about what that might look like. And so I think we're going to do it. I actually have just accepted a new role at Meredith. I'm the founding director of the Entrepreneurship and Impact Center.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. Meredith is the last accredited business college for women in the entire country.
Wow.
Yep. And so we are going to own that and create a center of e-ship for women and build the way that women build. And so this center is going to be, it's an idea right now. It's a baby seed, but the tea house will be a part of how we do business, whether it's around a table with sipping tea. But we're going to rewrite our own rules, and then students are going to run it.
I love that. It's the first story I've heard of a business being donated.
Yeah.
Like people give their name, they give money, but a business that they can actually learn from and grow, it's just so special.
Yeah. Well, I have all the pieces there, but like I said, I put it on ice. So it was, what do you do with something like that? You either fold it or you revive it. And, that's kind of what we're doing.
I think so many entrepreneurs go through that moment. And actually, Meg with the Bear and the Rat had a similar moment where, she had gone back to corporate and she was, just trying to make a salary again because the dog ice cream just wasn't hitting and wasn't getting to profit. They couldn't find a manufacturing partner. And then there was a moment where they got the offer. And I think that what we said to her was, I think most times you have to have this philosophy of like, say yes and then figure it out. And sometimes in your own business, when you have to take a hard pivot and find a different path because it's just not flowing. And like,
when you're not in the flow, it's the worst.
Yeah. And like when it feels just so difficult, like sometimes things are hard. Yeah, always.
Yes.
Things are hard. But like when it's like I am pushing through mud and like barrier after barrier after barrier. Like, are we even meant to be doing this? And Madi and I have definitely had those moments with all of our businesses where like, do we need to like chuck it and start over? Do we sell it and like do it again? Like, or not?
Or do we drudge through?
Yeah. Or what are we doing with this like other partner that we've ended up with? And like, are we going to buy our way out or are we going to just let them have it? I think there are just these moments of trajectory in our lives that like change everything. And at the same time, like don't change everything. Like your business isn't everything in your life, hopefully. And especially when you have like diversification, I love what you've done. Like you've started all of these different things and then, stuck with what worked or reinvented it or whatever. But then like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What can we do with this over here? So
yeah, that's right.
So
I
cool.
mean, I think that's exactly right. Like my childhood dream was to have a tea house, and so it was always this thing in the back of my head, but tea houses aren't really profitable and I have a lot of kids. So like, let's just be practical here.
Those are hard facts.
Yeah, hard facts, right? So there is the practical side of, daydreaming and actually running a profitable business that's going to put food on the table. And the tea house for me, like, I remember you were the first person, Stacie, that I told about when we were at that conference together. And I had a dream about it, like literally a dream. And I saw the logo and the packaging. I saw everything was just like so crystal clear. I knew I had to do it because it was so visceral.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was, and for a long time, the interesting thing about the tea house is I got into that NC Idea grant for small businesses, and they were trying to shift it into an automatic gifting platform, and so then it was like a tech platform of like, on-demand gifting and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not really, super passionate about gifting. That wasn't really, I like tea. I like growing plants and blending plants and like what kind of plant properties, like I got really into like, what are the medicinal properties of these herbs? Like that cool. was like, that's what I was reading before sleep. Right. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. It was creative for me. But it really never really became a profitable rev stream it made money, but it really wasn't a profitable rev stream. And so, at the same time, the world has changed since even when I launched it to make that business so much easier to run on demand.
Totally.
And we could get efficient with our COGS. We can get efficient with our distribution. And so it's like actually kind of a perfect little case study to hand over to the students. Because
now there's so many things like subscription models and, like all of those things too that might be really interesting for them to explore. So
and Meredith has gardens on campus too. Like we can collab with like whoever is running the gardens on campus.
Like
so we
a special
can,
Meredith blend.
100%. Yeah, that's always the vision that I had. It was sort of like the Build-A-Bear of teas, where you have like a wall of herbs that tells you, and then you mix and match, and build your own blends. So like one day I will be a happy camper when we walk in and there's just a wall of herbs.
People can order them online.
Well,
I can picture it right now.
Yes,
the whole
right?
graphics.
Like, Build-A-Bear for tea,
We want to be at that grand opening.
I want to go so bad.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Well, you have a permanent invite. I love it. I love it.
Congratulations, one. Thank you for like giving back to the next generation of entrepreneurs. I've had the pleasure of speaking to one of your classes and like what a bright room of just like energy and just enthusiasm, and hearing from them afterwards was just like so cool. And I can't wait to see what they do and like what you continue to bring.
I feel the same. It was one of those things. I had spoken there, and when I was at a business meeting across the street and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on at Meredith, and looked, and on the front page was this entrepreneur in residence role. So this is 2 years ago, and I literally was like speeding home, and like I'm like the crazy cat on the computer, like
I gotta get it.
Yeah, and I had to like provide my like high school transcripts, my like college transcripts. I was like, I don't know. I've been running my own business for so long, but I just knew it was the right thing. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. And so this to me is legacy work, right? I'm on a mission right now to bring together like all the badass women who really believe that business can be run differently, and that we are going to lift up and show the way so that we can create it, because we had to fight hard to do it, and for me, like my fighting hard was making a ton of mistakes, and if I had any kind of safety net in that situation, or anybody who was sort of helping me, I would have gotten there a lot faster. But for me, it was a grind, just really the school of hard knocks. And now it's like, you know what? It doesn't have to be like that for you. So
I love that so much. Well, I think that's a perfect wrap up to this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing so openly and for traveling to Colorado to be here with
Yes,
us.
of course.
What a pleasure. So thank you so much. Stick with us because we have got our mantra of the week.
Best friends.
So we're back. And as you guys know, at the end of every episode, Madi and I, talk about how every week throughout our friendship, we have chosen a mantra of the week. And so it has become our habit to share it on the pod.
But we're going to do a guest.
Yeah. So we've had Molly on, and I think Molly should go first. Molly, if you had to tell us your mantra, no pressure.
Okay.
What's your mantra?
Well, I have a daily mantra and a life mantra.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So my daily mantra is so hum. And you breathe in so, you exhale hum.
Oh.
And it means I am that I am. So it's a reminder of who we are as sovereign beings. So
I love
So
that.
much calmer with you
I
on
just
here.
took a deep breath when you said that. Oh my gosh. And then what's your life mantra?
everything great starts as somebody's daydream. So, it's one of those things like if you think it, you can build it. And so, like, there is something magical about what happens when something pops into your mind. And so, for me, like, when that happens, it's just, I'm like very present to it. So,
It's like always there.
it is. Yeah. So, everything great starts there.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
I love how you have actually lived that. Like from every business that you've told us about today, like every venture, every startup you've been part of, like I know that you have like truly breathed it into existence. So that is really cool.
sometimes a little heavy breathing it into existence, but yeah.
Yes, totally. All right, Madi.
I'm going to go with done is better than perfect.
That's what I was going to say. We didn't even drop our mantra
know.
this time.
I know.
Yeah, done is better than perfect is something that we come back to over and over again. And it's probably our mantra like once a month, to be honest.
It's like sometimes you just have to get it done.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to launch it. And even if it's not perfect, even if it's not ready, you got to ship
it's scary, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we do that all the time. In fact, we're getting ready to do it again.
Yes, we are.
In a big way. So done is better than perfect. Do you agree, Molly?
Oh, 100%. Yes. 80%. Leave 20% for the magic.
Yes. 20% for the magic. I love
Amazing.
that.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Molly. It's been a real pleasure having you on the pod.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it so much.
Your best friends in business with Stacie and Madi. The best advice you ever had, so you won't have to ask your dad. Best friends.
That's all for this episode of Your Best Friends in Business. Follow Your Best Friends in Business on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a review if you can. It helps new listeners find the show. Your Best Friends in Business is produced by Weston Main Homes in partnership with Pod People. Special thanks to our friend Dave Christie for the music.